Hi, and welcome to the Days Gone podcast. I'm Claire Weaver, a screenwriter, author, and Days Gone fan, and this podcast is a place to discuss the game in all its glory, share my opinions, both popular and unpopular, and listen to me fangirl over one of the best games ever made. There will be spoilers ahead, so continue at your own risk. Welcome to the Freak Show. Before we get started, I have a couple reminders. Weekdays at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, you can watch me live stream my Days Gone playthrough. I take on hordes, talk shit about rippers, and lay waste to ambush camps all before I've had my morning cup of coffee. You can find me on my YouTube channel, just search for Days Gone Podcast. And on Tuesdays, I hijack the Spornicus Rex YouTube channel for a collaborative live stream playthrough of Days Gone. He goes into advanced gameplay tactics and strategy, and I discuss the story, characters, and all the amazing details of the game. You can find us live on the Spornicus Rex YouTube channel every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. Today's episode is one I've been excited for a very long time. Joining me today is the master of challenge mode, the fearless annihilator of hordes, the speedrun king himself, none other than Borislav247. Borislav, hello and welcome to the Days Gone podcast. How are you doing today?
Very good, Claire. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. It is truly an absolute honour.
Oh, the honour is all mine, absolutely. So in case anyone's not familiar with your videos, your channel is an incredibly impressive collection of challenge mode runs and horde takedowns in record time. And I'm talking the Iron Butte Horde in 39 seconds, the Sawmill in 96 seconds, Mount Bailey in 41 seconds, like seriously mind-blowing shit. And you also have tutorials and guides to help people understand the challenges and get good scores. You're obviously a huge fan of the game and an excellent gamer. Where did your love of gaming start?
Well, it started very early in my life. I've got to admit, as I was growing up, when I was finally allowed to go into the main high street of the town that I lived in at the time, I started by going to the odd cafes that we had there, because this was the only form of entertainment there was in the way of arcade machines. We weren't lucky enough to have a proper arcade store. There was one in a town nearby, about 17 miles away, but at the time I was too young where I was allowed to go there. So I first started off by watching my friends playing various arcade machines and occasionally having to go myself. Eventually, when I was a little bit older, I managed to get to this town, which was around about 17 miles away, and that's when I first started to play some of the arcade games of that time. And I might be showing my age here when I start mentioning one or two of these, because you're talking the likes of Choplifter, Chase HQ, Outrun, absolute classics of
I don't
their
know
time.
any of those.
Really?
Yeah.
Outrun?
I haven't heard of those. I don't know arcades all that well, so maybe I'm showing my ignorance there. But no, I haven't heard of those. Maybe Outrun. That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most famous arcade machines, certainly. Choplifter and Chase HQ, I'll just be quite honest, they were ones that were available at the time, and Chase HQ actually became reasonably good at the time, so for very little money I used to be playing that for about 20-30 minutes a time, so
Nice.
that certainly helped. But as I got a bit older, and actually say a lot older, I was in my teens when I got my first computer, which was a 48K Spectrum.
Ooh.
And from there, that was when my love of games started.
What were some of the games that you like to play on your Spectrum?
Oh, so many. I mean, to start with, there was some very simple games, but the playability of them in that time was fantastic. The likes of Jetpack, Chucky Egg. You also had a lot of arcade games that started to be converted to play on these computers, so the likes of Bomb Jack, Space Harrier, Paperboy, that was apparently very, very popular in
Finally,
the US.
one I've heard of.
Yes.
Paperboy.
So my love just basically grew from there, and I eventually moved on to an Amiga 500.
Oh, I had
Where
one of those. I had one of those. That was my first computer.
yeah, fantastic machines. They really
Mhm.
are. One of my few regrets in life was that I actually sold my Amiga 500 with my huge collection of games that I had amassed. I
Oh,
really wish,
man.
I really wish I hadn't, because from there I eventually moved on to um, proper consoles, and I think
Mhm.
the Sega Mega Drive was probably the first that I owned in that genre. Um, Obviously, for Sonic the Hedgehog, I can't think of any gamer that hasn't been heavily into other games and hasn't played that game.
Mhm.
And from there, I started to get a number of consoles over the years, and I still have them. Um, from this point, I never sold them. I've kept all my consoles. So Sega Mega Drive, Nintendo Wii, which I actually still have set up in my living room. Still play that from time to time.
Nice.
Um, and a few others in the PlayStation, especially. I have every PlayStation that was ever made.
Mm.
1, 2, 3. I have 2 PlayStation 4s. Only because
Wait, why?
one of them is the PS4 Pro.
Oh, okay.
That is why I have 2 of those. The other is just a standard PlayStation 4. And of
Right.
course, I've been very, very lucky I managed to get my hands on a PlayStation 5.
Oh my god, how did you manage to get a PlayStation 5?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I am very lucky because the job that I do, I work nights. And where I work, I have full access to the internet.
Mm.
And around 3 o'clock in the morning, um, a very famous chain, shop chain in the UK called Argos, happened to drop
Mm.
a whole batch of PlayStation 5s at around 20 past 3 in the morning. And I just happened to be on their website at the time.
Damn. That is some luck.
And I was so lucky. I all of a sudden went into a blind panic. I'm like, oh my god, I don't effing believe this. It's like, let's
It's
do
like,
this.
quick, order it before they run out.
Yeah, so I was trying from various different areas because they start with the region that you're in, and it was basically saying, nope, none are available. So I went to try another area. All of a sudden, I'm being told available for collection, but not for delivery. And I think eventually it ended up a store in Leicester that I happened to check on, and then they actually had it available to buy. And I was just
Nice.
rushing through to get my details through via PayPal, and that was it. Around about 12 hours later, I had the PlayStation 5 at my house. Even after I had got confirmation that it would be delivered at such and such a time, I still didn't believe it. I'd heard so many stories about people who had managed to secure a PlayStation, or they had thought they had managed to secure a PlayStation, only for them to be told a few hours later that, no, sorry, we actually run out of stock, and
Mm.
the machine we promised you can't have.
Right. Yeah, I'd be so paranoid. I'm still trying to get one. They just I don't know how to do it. But aside from just sheer blind luck, you just happen to be on the site at the right time.
They're well worth it, Claire, when you manage to get your hands on one,
Yeah.
especially for Days Gone.
Mhm. So yeah, let's talk about that. So how did you discover Days Gone? What console were you on? What were your expectations? When did you discover it? Tell me the whole story about how you got into Days Gone.
Yeah, absolutely. It started off when I seen a video clip on YouTube, and I think it was the E3 conference, if I
Mhm.
remember rightly, and it was their first showing of Days Gone involving a horde. And this poor guy, which I now know to be Deacon St. John,
Mhm.
who was running for his life around this environment, ducking, vaulting over items with this huge amount of, at the time I thought was just zombies, Obviously, I now know them as Freakers, Swarmers, and whatnot. But I was watching this and I was absolutely mesmerised, and I'm thinking, this looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I heard that this was an open world game, that was it. I had it earmarked for buying. Now, I didn't buy it immediately when it came out, I will be quite honest. At the time, I was playing one or two other games, and I just basically had it in my mind, right, I'm going to wait until it comes in the sales, and then I'm going to pick up a copy of this as cheap as I can get it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, it happened. There was a sale in a city that's fairly near to myself, and I managed to pick it up for £14.
Whoa, that's cheap.
It really cheap at the time, which I'm sure the creators from Bench Studio will. Well, they did. I believe they had quite a rant about people that weren't paying full price for their game.
Yeah.
That they were a tad miffed, annoyed about.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is an understatement. I think he used some rather stronger language than that. But anyhow, from there, once I had the game, it's, believe it or not, it still took. I think I had it for about 2 weeks, sitting on my shelf in my collection before I actually took the time to load it onto my PlayStation. And at the time, I owned a standard PlayStation 4.
Mm-hmm.
And from then, that's when the magic for me began. It really was. My first playthrough was absolutely amazing. It came at a time when I think you were talking roughly about 3 or 4 weeks before the Days Gone challenges were actually due to be released.
Right. Yeah, because they were a DLC that came after the release.
Yes. And I was all the time that I was playing Days Gone, I was absolutely oblivious to this news that these Days Gone challenges were due to be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing Days Gone, absolutely loved it. I did what probably every other gamer does the very first time. I just tried to complete everything, really took my time over it. Got absolutely petrified of the game very quickly because Bed Studio do an absolutely fantastic job of putting certain things in the right areas very early on.
Mm-hmm. Those little jump scares.
I'm talking about the Death Train Horde that you see very early. That's put in a very specific point where you're having to pass them on a number of occasions. And this was the very first Horde that I ever tried to take on.
How'd that go for you?
Terribly. I had very little ammo, and the ammo that I did have was with guns that were very poor to start with. And I did eventually take care of this horde, but it must have taken, I'm not exaggerating when I say about 25 minutes, because I had the bike parked so far up the road, I would try and take out a few freakers every time, get on the bike, move it,
drive off, come back.
Then, come back, rinse and repeat. I eventually did take them out, but it took a long, long time.
Yeah.
And at this time, I didn't have any concepts of the extra weapons that I would eventually get. I didn't have anything in the way of throwables and whatnot. In fact, at that time, I didn't even know they existed because I hadn't picked up any.
So you're just doing it with the shitty guns that you had at the beginning of the game?
Yes, I think it was an SAF-12, and again, I had so little ammo. I think I was lucky if I had 30 bullets at the time when I was taking on this horde, and I had a pistol, and I had my melee weapon at the time. And again, it was quite a poor melee weapon.
And how big is the Death Train Horde?
It's 50 strong.
50. Which, at the beginning of the game, that's way too many. I remember the Little Bear Lake Horde. I remember that being like at least 1,000 freaks when I first took it on. And I swear, like all the hordes, the first playthroughs feel like 5,000 freakers. And you play it a second time and you're like, wait, no. No, it's only like 50, or Little Bear Lake, I think, is what, 25, 30?
Yeah, it's 30.
Your perception changes so much on a second playthrough. I joke that maybe Ben Studio did some sort of patch or update that reduced the number of freaks in a horde, because the Lava Arch horde was it's my favorite horde because it was, I think, the first one um, that I really felt like I was going to try to take on. And I think I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure I gave up, or it took me a long time, like you with the Death Train horde, because there were just so many of them. And now I play it and I'm like, well, it's only like 50 or 75. Like, it's not that many. It's
Well,
easy when you pack in the MG55 or the SMP9. But at the beginning of the game, when you, especially like you say, when you don't know what you're going to get later and you don't know about the Molotovs or the napalm Molotovs or grenades or using bombs or anything like that, you don't know to use the explosive barrels and the truck that's parked right next to the Death Train horde. You
yes,
don't necessarily
absolutely.
know those things.
I couldn't agree more. After that first horde that I took on, I swear for the first part of that game when I was in the northern section,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take on another horde until virtually I was about to head south. I think just before that time, I started to take on one or two more hordes.
Mm-hmm.
Up until that point, I relied purely on stealth. In fact, I pretty much became a melee master at that time, and
Yeah.
I never went out at night because I did become aware at that time after one or two times when I was actually playing the game, and I happened to not realise that nighttime had properly started where the hordes were going to come out, and I ended up running into one or two of them.
Yeah.
So from there, I just stuck to the daytime and really played it safe. In fact, my first playthrough was so different to the style which I now employ.
Yeah, it's surprising to hear that because watching your videos, like the Borislav I know from watching all your videos online, you have no fear of the hordes and you just roll in there and fuck up their day in 41 seconds. And it's crazy to think that you started the game being, as you say, like mastering the melee and stealth and only playing in the daytime. I mean, I think that's something that we all start like that, and people don't realize when they watch people like you or Spornicus Rex, these people who are so good at mastering the game. You forget that you were all noobs too at some point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My first playthrough, as I can't stress enough, just how different it was to how I have played future playthroughs.
Hmm.
My very first playthrough, I relied purely on stealth. Eventually, when I started to pick up some better weapons, yes, then I did start to engage some of the hordes a little bit more, but still, I was quite cautious. I didn't really have any great strategies um, when I was playing the game and getting the Nero injectors. I was taking them on in completely the wrong way as to what I would do now. I would always start with trying to get the health up to full first, then I would go for stamina and then focus.
Oh wow, so you maxed out your health first.
Yes, and stupidly. I really was. It was just pure ignorance on my part, not realizing, um, because now I really am all about guns, guns, guns.
So your max out focus
Yep,
first.
focus always first now,
Mm.
then stamina, and then eventually health.
Now, do you max it out each time, or do you kind of keep them sort of the same, but like always upgrade focus, and then you'll throw a couple on stamina, then a couple on health, or are you just doing focus, 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 focus for the first 10 or whatever?
Yep, the first 10 I absolutely just go to get as much on focus as possible.
Damn.
Once I've achieved that, then I go for stamina. The main reason for this is as the game starts to go on and you start to take out one or two of the ambush camps,
Mm-hmm.
you start to get your recipes unlocked.
Right.
And I do know, um, right from the off, I think within about the first 4 or 5 ambush camps that you take out, you unlock. I'm pretty sure there is one for focus, and there's also a stamina cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if it's fourth or fifth. I do know it's pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because of this, I've always just right from the start just concentrated on focus, because once you have that and once you've unlocked the focus ability and the skills, it really makes a lot of the gunplay so much easier, especially with the marauders.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point with the stamina cocktails because I suck at remembering to use the cocktails. I really I don't know why. I don't fucking think of them. I don't remember them. Um, but you're right, you could just focus on upgrading the focus and then use the stamina cocktails to in the field upgrade your stamina for the short period of time that you need it. You don't need to use the Nero injectors when you have the stamina cocktails. I
Yeah,
never even thought
pretty
about
much.
that. I never even fucking thought of it that way. I always, because my thing is I do focus and stamina, and I kind of like alternate. This playthrough, I'm doing a little more on focus. My current playthrough, I'm doing an antisocial playthrough where I'm not buying guns from the camps. I'm not going into camps except to get jobs. So I'm not selling bounties. I'm not doing any of that. So I really need to make the ammo count. So I'm getting ammo out in the field, just whatever I can scavenge. Um, so I'm using the focus to basically make my weapons more efficient, not waste any ammo that I manage to get, um, and not really using the stamina or the health upgrades at all, not getting those because I'm not engaging so much in combat because I don't have good weapons right now and I'm not able to purchase them because I'm not going into camps to purchase them. So it's like I'm imposing this restriction on myself just to change up my gameplay a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Normally I would do kind of focus and stamina in combination and kind of level them up together and kind of pull up the health. Like every once in a while, I'll throw one on health, just do a little bit here and there. Because I forget I played so many new game pluses that I forgot what it's like when your health is at 100. And I'd be like fearlessly in combat and like doing okay, but taking a few hits and then suddenly I'm dead. I'm like, what? Why am I dead? Oh, yeah, because you only have 100 health. Like, your health is not as high as you're used to. I'm used to it being like, what does it get up to? Like 300 or something?
Yeah,
350,
something
whatever
like
it
that.
is.
Yes.
Yeah. So you just forget that you don't have as much of a buffer.
And I was going to say, I'm assuming on Survival 2 that they will probably do more damage with gunfire,
Hmm.
even from the marauders.
Yeah. My last playthrough was Survival 2, where I really had to think more about health. My current playthrough is Hard 2. Just there isn't really that much of a difference between Hard 2 and Survival 2. I don't find like obviously yes, the enemies have a little better health, they do a little more damage to you, but it wasn't really that much of a difference for me. The thing I missed was having the mini map. And I actually like not having it, but live streaming, I don't like to be constantly spamming the map and or getting lost. No one wants to watch someone drive around the Cascades going in the wrong direction and having to turn around. So I was like, okay, for this playthrough, I'm going to use the map so that I'm not wasting people's time as they're watching me live stream. So yeah, I landed on hard too. But yeah, still having to avoid combat. I'm still really early game. I've only done a few hours of gameplay. I just decided to take the drugs to Copeland. So I'm just at that point of the game right now. Um,
Ah, right.
and the reason why I chose Copeland's obviously because I'm not buying guns. I don't need to take
Yes.
them to Tuck. But what I am doing is I am buying bike upgrades. It's a little bit of a cheat to the concept, but no one wants to play the entire fucking game with the starter bike. Nobody
I
needs to see that shit.
I
So,
couldn't agree more. That is one of my pet hates about the game. There's not many, but the
mhm.
bike at the very start is, oh my god, it is infuriating.
The amount of times I just see no nitrous installed flash up on the screen as I'm spamming the X, like, go faster, go faster, go fast. Oh, no nitrous installed, no nitrous installed, no nitrous installed. I'm like, oh, I need to get the nitrous installed because I spam that button all the time. I'm like, go. Oh, I don't have nitrous. Go. Oh, I don't have nitrous. It's so annoying. I hate that little pop up.
Yeah. I've got to admit, with myself, Claire, it used to be always running out of fuel.
Oh.
My first playthrough, I was terrible for this in the first couple of hours. I just didn't pay enough attention to the fuel gauge, and the next thing I knew, the bike was just stopping, and I'm like, for God's sake, Boris, you've done it again. Come on. However, I did get to see a lot of the open world on foot, so...
Yes, yeah. I do know some people play it without using the bike much. Like, they'll go out on foot more so than use the bike to get to know the world and to encourage more encounters with the world.
Yeah, I totally get that because it's a fantastic world that they've created, and the scenery is, stunning. Really is.
Yeah. And so many little details everywhere, so many little stories that you come across. Not mass graves, but like little graves, suicides, weird scenes of potential murder or something, like questionable events have taken place, memorials and things like that. It's a very bleak world underneath its beauty.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have to ask you, just now you referred to yourself as Boris. Where does the name Borislav247 come from? Is it 247 or 24/7? How do you pronounce it?
Right, well, an interesting one, because when I first came up with the name Borislav247, it's actually come from the fact that from a very young age, my nickname was always Boris, and one or two of my friends used to call me Borislav. Now, from here, it's always remained. People do still call me Boris. When I eventually created a PSN account on my PlayStation, I came up with the name Borislav247. I didn't actually type in 24/7. I just put 247 in, as I wanted it to be Borislav 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And from there, I eventually, when I came to creating my YouTube channel, I was very much of the thought I wanted to have the same name for the channel as what I currently do for my PlayStation title, purely to make it easier for people to find my videos.
Right, consistency.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just a childhood nickname.
Yes, basically. That's all it is. I will be honest, when there was a point I was thinking about actually putting, for the YouTube one, actually typing it as 20 and then putting the 47 in, but I just left it the same as what I had it with the PlayStation. And as people started recognizing my channel, everybody just kept on referring to it as Borislav247. And I thought, do you know what? That actually sounds quite catchy. So I just went with that. I never ever corrected anyone about that. Even though at the very start it was supposed to be Borislav 24/7.
I'm feeling weirdly proud of myself because I always read it as 24/7, like
Yep.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I heard you on one of your videos. I think you said 247, and I was like, oh shit, I've been saying it wrong because I call you Borislav 24/7.
I was just about to say, Claire, you're the first and only person I have actually ever heard say Borislav 24/7. And I remember the first time I heard you say that, and I was laughing. I'm thinking, my God, somebody's actually got it right.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to keep calling you Borislav 24/7, even though you yourself now say 247. I'm going to say 24/7. And when anyone tries to correct me, I'll be like, no, 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 don't correct me. I am right.
No, you can definitely say you're right. There will come a time that I will probably maybe make slight changes to my logo and whatnot, where I will make it a little bit clearer. But right now, I've just I thought, no, I'll just stick with what everybody knows.
Yeah, and hey, if people are saying your name, whether they say it right or wrong, that's a good thing. If people are subscribing to your channel and like following you and finding you and they know who you are, then, who cares if they say 247 or 24/7?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into talking about challenge mode. How would you describe I call you the master of challenge mode. How would you describe yourself and like what you do, what you have done with challenge mode?
Well, you're too kind in calling me the master. I will be quite honest. It's all come through practice with the challenges, but it all started off, and ironically, the thing that I am now best known for is the very first video that I actually made for my channel was um, a challenge mode video.
Mhm.
It all came from one of the challenges which I had gone from being moderately good at to actually getting into the world top 5. I think this particular one, I actually made the world ranking number 4 for Outride. And at the time I was like, oh my god, it's like I'd been toying for a long time with wanting to make a gaming channel, and I just never really felt it was the right time, or I never really felt there was a platform to actually do this until I I managed to get inside the top 5 for this particular challenge. And I decided at this point, I thought, well, do you know what? This is as good a time as any to release my first video. And so the channel Borislav247 was created.
Excuse me, sir. I think you'll find it's 24/7.
Yes. I should really start going with Borislav 24/7, but from here, it started to take off, and slowly. I
Mhm.
will be quite honest. The very first video that I released, um, I was happy if I even got 2 or 3 views a day for it. I do remember watching intently every day after I'd released this first video, and I think over the space of the first 2 months, I think it had got about 50 views.
Mhm. Yeah.
Not fantastic, but
No, I mean, that's better than you had before you uploaded a video, because you used to have
yes,
0 views, so everyone
yes.
starts somewhere.
So eventually, I thought, do you know what? I'll start to produce 1 or 2 more videos, um, which are tutorial based, and I think the next one that I did after Outride was Black Friday, and
Mhm.
it was a very detailed video, but it was very poor in terms of how it was edited and whatnot. At this time, this was my first start in actually producing videos where I actually put print on screen,
Right.
and this actually created problems for me, as it has with a number of the videos. Because although I feel there's a lot of the videos I've done a tremendous job with, what a lot of people do not realize is I'm dyslexic. So all of a sudden, I'm not only trying to take on starting these videos off, but I'm also now trying to work away with the editing processes and putting print on screen when I know I have a problem with actually getting the right words.
So did you have some typos, or you just, like, worried, paranoid that you're gonna have typos and mistakes in that?
I'll be quite honest, I check everything. Well, I don't always check well enough, but the first few videos I would constantly, once I had printed everything on screen, I would go back and read through them all.
Mm,
And I was constantly having to make changes
right.
just to cover up for any mistakes.
And that's so time consuming. I think people don't realize how much time and effort goes into creating stuff like this. I mean, for example, like the podcast, it sounds like we just have an hour-long conversation. I just hit publish and boom, there it is. There's hours and hours and hours that go into prepping for a podcast and also editing it after the fact. All the post-production, all the editing, and all of the extra stuff like the uploading and writing the description and coming up with a thumbnail and all of that stuff. I imagine it's the same for you. You're not just jumping on the game, playing for half an hour, uploading a video. you're doing, like you say, you're doing text and captions, you got to do descriptions, you've got to, do your thumbnails, you've got to edit it. You do your commentary sometimes separately from the video, so you have to record that separately and then edit that in. So much work goes into it.
There is indeed. There is indeed. I'll be quite honest, it took quite some time before I had the courage to actually start to put commentary to my videos. From the early start that I had a number of the videos that I was putting them out as tutorials, and the idea for actually really going to try to perfect the challenge mode challenges only started coming after the people were saying it's refreshing that someone who is showing us these tutorials is actually good at these games. Not They're not getting these tutorials off. This is maybe a little bit unkind in saying like a generic gamer, but you do get a lot of gamers where they play it as the sort of the game of the month. Then once they've got their gold standards to the various challenges, then they move on and they have nothing more to do with them.
Right. You can tell the passion that you have, not just for the mechanics of the game, but for the spirit of the game.
The challenges have certainly taken a hold of me. I will be quite honest. Um, After completing the Days Gone main game, which was a fantastic experience for me, I was really of the stage. It was like, oh my god, where do I go from here? And it was only when I went onto YouTube and I happened to be watching a video, and it was called Surrounded,
Hmm.
and it was like, I just happened to see world ranking number one. I think it was at the time 80 million, and I'm like, what is this, and why have I not seen it before? And as I started to watch it, um, did a little bit of research on the internet and discovered that Bench Studio had released a number of Days Gone challenges. And when I first started playing these challenges for the first time, I think they were on the fourth challenge of the 12.
Yeah, because they got released in stages, right?
They did indeed. I think they started in June of 2019. And basically, certainly from the UK point of view, they were releasing them every Friday evening at 6 p.m. And over the next 12 weeks, they released them at the same time every week until they had all 12 out. And that was when the bug really hit for me.
Now, you mentioned being globally ranked. How does one go about getting their score certified, or how do you know that you hold the record for a high score?
Right. Well, basically, when you're playing the Days Gone challenges, the one thing above all else is you have to make sure you have a good internet connection when you're playing these challenges. Your PSN name, you will automatically be logged in with the PlayStation for that. I am assuming. If you're not, then you have to be. But when you're playing these particular challenges, if you happen to have a good score, you actually have the ability to go onto the leaderboard and check. If you're not in the global top 25, you will actually see on screen um, something actually telling you your global ranking in the world.
Oh, so it's in the game, so the game keeps track of who's got the high score, basically. Going
Yes,
back to the old arcade games that you used to love, it's the same thing. Like you'd at the end of the game, you put in your usually your three initials, and yeah, you'd see how you do on that machine. But nowadays, it's like it's all connected to the internet. So yeah, I guess that's yeah, it just shows up on that leaderboard.
absolutely. The beauty of this as well is it's never deleted. Once your name is up there, your highest score will always be recorded through the servers of Bench Studio, but
That's
it will
cool.
but it will only ever be your best score on that particular challenge.
Mm-hmm. Now, didn't you have a few where you were number one? I know you have some where you're in the top 3 or the top 2. Don't you have some where you're number 1?
I am currently world number 1 on 4 of the challenges as we speak.
Damn.
I have another 2 world number 2 rankings. I also have a world number 3, so that takes care of seven of the challenges. I am world number 3 or better.
Damn.
And of the last 5 challenges, I am in the global 25, the global top 25, sorry, I should say, of 4 of those 5 challenges.
Which is the one that you don't rank on?
Survive.
Okay. Which one's that one?
Survive. It's the second challenge that was ever released by Bench Studio. It's the challenge where you basically wake up and you're having to fight marauders in the graveyard.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite one.
It's a fantastic challenge. All the people that are in the top 25, and I will really take my hats off to them, they are in for one very good reason. This particular challenge, the only way you can really sort of guarantee to get yourself in the top 25 is by taking out every marauder without receiving any damage throughout the entire challenge. If you get nicked once with a bullet, lose any health of any nature, that is it. You basically stop the chance of getting a 2,500 point bonus at the end of the challenge. And this is critical in order to get onto the world top 25.
Damn.
I've never managed to do it yet. I've come close, but it's never quite happened. I think I am sitting 95th in the world for that. So I am in the top 100, but
it's still incredible being in the top 100, even on just one of them. Like, forget the it's incredible. And I love how we saved this until like way into the episode before we even brought up, oh, by the way, you're globally ranked number 1, number 2, number 3 on like 7 of the 12 challenges. And that's what I mean when I say you're the master, because you truly do know these challenges inside and out, and you know how to get those scores. And you can back up your knowledge with actual skill of doing it.
I've got to admit, my knowledge of the challenges is very good. Before actually putting out the tutorials for these challenges, I put in an exceptional amount of time in terms of practicing them, finding out just where the certain parts that have to be completed in a specific way, and just go out of my way to make sure that I have the information correct before I make the tutorials.
Do you think that's kind of the key to getting such a good score and doing so well, is just understanding all of the nuances, all of the detail of the challenge?
It certainly helps. There are some pieces of information with certain challenges, if you know, that will get you the higher scores. And I try constantly to put all this information into the tutorials, especially if they're ones that are concentrating on getting the top global scores. Lately, I will be quite honest, I've actually taken more satisfaction from the tutorials that just get the job done for the average gamer who is simply wanting to get the gold scores and the sub-challenges taken care of to a gold standard.
Yeah, those are the ones that help me. I mean, your mastery of the challenge to the global ranking standards is incredible. But for me, like, I don't have the patience, or not really, the patience is the wrong word. I get too nervous. It's too competitive for me, like trying to get a high score. I get flustered and kind of panicked and like in my own head about trying to achieve that. I just kind of want to get gold or silver or something. I want to at least feel like I've at least get bronze, so I feel like I've done the challenge. I don't have anything to prove necessarily, because I know I'm not good enough to get, to knock Borislav247 off the top spot. That's never going to happen. So for me, what's important is getting the perks from challenge mode. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize. They think challenge mode is fun, but it's like a separate thing outside of the game that's just, if you're done with the game and you want a different kind of gameplay, cool, there are those challenges, go check them out. But there's actually something worthwhile about completing the challenges. Can you explain the patches and how they carry over into the main game?
Absolutely. It's, as you've just rightly said, Claire, it's actually amazing just how many people still don't realize that when you complete these challenges, they all unlock patches. And depending on the scores that you manage to achieve on each of the challenges, the patch that you unlock will vary accordingly. There is a bronze, silver, and gold score that you can achieve in all of the challenges, and whenever you manage to get one of these scores, you will unlock a patch for each of these challenges. The bronze challenge is the lowest form, obviously, but the advantage that it gives you is still quite good.
Mm-hmm.
When you manage to unlock to a silver level, that is enhanced, and if you manage to get the gold score on a particular challenge, you will get the maximum advantage that that particular challenge will give you. And all of these challenges have a different advantage that they will give to you, which is immediately applied to the main Days Gone game.
And what are a couple of examples of the patches?
Well, the perfect examples I'll really start with are probably what I consider to be two of the best advantages you can possibly get. There is a challenge called the Ambush Camp Rush.
Mm-hmm.
And this, in my view, has the best possible patch advantage. And it is basically bullet penetration. So for every bullet that you fire from your gun, if you're firing into a group of freakers, it will, if you get the bronze patch on this particular challenge, I think the bullet penetration is +1. When you get to silver, it's +2. If you manage to get the gold, all of a sudden you have bullets that will be potentially going through 3 freakers at a time if you're
Yeah.
going for headshots. Body shots, it doesn't always quite work that way, but this advantage is huge. Not only for some of the Endless Horde challenges that you have, but also for the main Days Gone game. You will find that the hordes all of a sudden become so much easier when taking them out through gunplay.
I need to get that one. I
I'll
really
be
need
quite
that one.
honest, it's not one of the easiest challenges to complete to a gold score. The second one, again, one of the best advantages that you can possibly get comes from a challenge called Outride.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
bike. It's a bike challenge, but when you complete this one to a gold standard, this provides you with 40% extra durability on any melee weapons in the main Days Gone game.
Damn, that is good.
This one is huge.
That's an
This
incredible perk.
It really is. If you have this, especially if you pair the fact that you have this particular advantage and you happen to be using, for example, a machete in the main game, which is quite a durable item as it
Mm-hmm.
is.
I love the
Uh,
machete.
yes, me too. It's my personal favorite, I've got to admit.
Me too. It's recently become my personal favorite. I used to rock the Superior Mace. That was always the cool one because it looks kind of cool, but it swings slow, and the machete is so fast and so
Exactly.
brutal as well. Like some of the kills with the machete where you take off their heads or their arms or something, and I'm like, oh my god, this is
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. You couldn't have said it any better. Really, the machete for me is all about speed.
Hmm.
You can apply 2 very quick hits, much quicker than a lot of the other weapons, where you would just be getting one hit in.
Right.
And with the fact that the weapon is so durable already, even before possibly getting an advantage through outride, just makes it the number one melee weapon for myself.
Can we just do a little sidebar? Can you settle a bet for me? You can be the decider on this. So me and Spornicus Rex have had conversations about the machete versus the fire axe. I'm team machete, he's team fire axe. He says that the fire axe is slower, but will take out a freak in fewer hits. And I forget where the durability matches up on the two. And if I remember correctly, and I could be completely wrong about this, the fire axe is not repairable. He's always team fire axe because it basically gets the job done in like 3 hits or 4 hits, whereas the machete takes 4, 5, 6 hits. But I always think if it's moving quickly and it's cooler, then why not go with the machete? What's your opinion on that?
I'm definitely with the machete, Claire.
Awesome. Machetes win.
The fire axe is a good weapon, but I do know the durability of it is not quite there with the machete. And the machete is just, again, it's, for me, it was always a speed thing.
Mm-hmm.
The machete can be wielded so quickly. You can get so many hits in so fast that it really is. I think it's just the perfect melee weapon for the Days Gone world.
Yeah.
You do need something that's quick, and especially if you start to get quite a number of marauders all of a sudden. Sometimes if you just don't feel that you're going to be getting the time to get shots off on them, or if you want to keep quiet, which is probably more the main reason, if you're quite near where a horde happens to be, you're not necessarily wanting to take out the gun when you know all of a sudden you may just get a horde coming at you very quickly, which you may not be prepared for. So
yeah. And also bear in mind, like, for the first good chunk of the game, your stamina is not very high. Even if you, like me, you're kind of putting a little bit of that Nero injectors into stamina, or I mean with you, like, you're not putting it in until like a third of the way through the game. So your ability to run away from a horde, escape from them if you need to, is limited. Without having to, unless you want to pop a stamina cocktail or something, but that's like a waste of a resource. So yeah, the melee is great because you don't want to risk having to waste time or resources fleeing the area just because you pulled out your gun, made a noise, and attracted a horde.
yes.
Yeah, I love the melee weapons. I love using them for the fun of using them, and I love how it fits into the world as a clever choice, like you say, for stealth, and also just like using the resources of the world. The melee weapons effectively cost nothing. I mean, the machete costs nothing because you can just pick it up. And the fire axe, you just pick it up. You don't need to make it. You don't upgrade it in any way. You just find them. And I want to mention again something that I mentioned in a previous episode. Machetes are plentiful. They are really easy to find. Look out for the green pickup trucks, the forestry service trucks. They're always in the back of that. You'll always find a machete in those, or like 90% of the time, you'll find a machete in those. Which, if you look out for them, they're everywhere. So machetes are like really easy to get, and you can, rather than repair them every time you drive past a truck, just hop off your bike, grab a new machete, boom, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, they definitely have their place. As much as I'm definitely all about the guns, there are times when the machete just is required to do the job. So.
That's all we have time for this week. Come back next Wednesday for part 2, in which Boris and I talk about horde killing, fear, and why he always lets his health get so low. Just a reminder, you can support the Days Gone podcast via buymeacoffee.com/daysgonepod, where you can throw a little money in the tip jar if you're feeling generous. That really helps me with the overhead costs of running the show. And I want to give a shout out to Joe Perotti, who generously bought me 3 coffees this week. Thank you, Joe. You're awesome. You can also support the podcast by simply leaving a review on Spotify or whatever app you use to listen to us on, and subscribe and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. That helps the algorithm do its thing so more people can find the podcast. You can email me your thoughts, comments, opinions, and counter-arguments at daysgonepod@gmail.com. You can also find me moderating the Days Gone subreddit. Thanks for listening. Weaver out.